You're watching Mallrats, a Star Wars podcast. Thank you for listening.
And welcome to Mallrats, a Star Wars episodic, rehashing, chatting, things we like, things we didn't like, and really just talk about all things Star Wars as it pertains to the Disney Plus series and future series. I'm Bob.
I'm Nolan.
Hello, Nolan, and this is our second episode critique titled "The Tribes of Tatooine." It aired on the first month. That would be January 5th, 21, and it was 52 minutes. Now, obviously, that's for some recapping at the beginning and credits at the end. So we'll just say it's about 48, 49 minutes ish. Yeah. Written by Jon Favreau, directed by Steph Green.
I don't know who that is.
I don't know who that is either. Or I didn't.
You researched it.
I've researched it. Because I'm like, Jon Favreau is not going to just give it to just anybody. But typically with Mando, they kind of recycle their people, which she maybe will get another episode. But, she has a huge resume in television and some great shows. I don't know if you've watched any of them. She did one episode of The Watchmen. Which was on an HBO, which was fantastic, short limited series. She did The Man in the High Castle, the Amazon one, where if Germany had won World War II, how would that impact? She did The Americans, which is a great show on FX of these two Soviet spies living in America. It's fantastic. So she did 2 episodes of that, and then she did a show called Billions on Showtime. And then a comedy on Hulu that I really like that no one ever talked about is called You're the Worst. A Man and a Woman, and just hilarious. I liked it. So anyways, I put that one in there because I found humor throughout this, as well as drama and action and heart, and I thought she did a fantastic job. For somebody I never knew, she had to do the train scene, which we'll talk about, the action, she had to do fights, and a little bit of humor here or there sprinkled throughout, like the Rancor pit or some stuff happening on the train with the droid, and I thought she balanced that very well.
I noticed humor in the first one, as when they're sitting on the throne, they're kind of back and forth about the tributes. They did that
in the first episode.
In this one too, and it's probably going to be a staple of it.
I kind of hope so, and I think it shows you the relationship that Boba has with Fennec, that she can be, I think we talked about this, that she can be so open-minded and opinionated. As she's not a yes man or yes woman by any stretch of the imagination. So that's pretty good. So the first scene, it opens up an exterior, again, outside Boba's palace. And Fennec is walking in with that assassin, that hitman that she captured at the very end of the last episode.
The Night Wind.
Well, yeah, they were called the Order of the Night Wind, which we find out in a little bit. But what I loved about them walking up to it is when, as they got closer, the camera went inside the palace and the gate opened exactly like it did when we see, droids or Luke Skywalker, coming in. And that just was it was intentional, but little things like that might get lost on people who didn't live and breathe the movies. And so I find that to be a kind of an Easter egg.
I think it was a nice addition to swoop in, and I remember from basically growing up on the Wii Lego Star Wars games,
right?
You actually got to see the inside and play as the Gamorreans and the different characters from inside. And I think it's nice that is technically canon, because that's exactly what it looks like.
So now it's canon. I don't think Lego's intended, unless it came out after the purchase. I enjoyed playing the Battlefront games that had Jabba's palace, and mainly the only thing you recognize is the throne room, and Han is over there on the left, and the Jabba and the Rancor. But I don't know. Obviously we like Star Wars, but you have more experience with the Wii than I did. So they bring the hitman in front of Boba, and the first thing they can't get him to talk, even with the threat of his life. And then we have the 88 droid come in again with the guy from before who we like, and he seems to be all knowing. He's that protocol droid, maybe, kind of, that Boba wanted in the first one so they could understand the Aqualish, kind of the walrus type guy.
Is he really a protocol droid, though?
He's not.
Because I thought those were just they look like C-3PO. how he looks.
Technically, yes. But remember, 3PO wasn't always a translator. He programmed binary load lifters, and when Owen was recruiting him at the beginning of New Hope, he can speak Bocce, he can speak all these languages, but he also has some other capabilities. I don't think 88 is a
Doesn't
is
look
a
like it.
protocol droid at all, but he seems to be that third advisor or second advisor to with Fennec, and he seems to know everything. And Boba, for as much time as he's spent on Tatooine, we can assume over the years, as the bounty hunter, and you'd think he would know a little bit more about certain things. But we find out that the hitman, the one thing he does say while he's up in the throne room. Did you catch that? Because he goes, oh, he doesn't need
Oh,
his head or anything.
yeah.
Ichuta.
They said in The Mandalorian. I know they said it in another movie,
Well,
but I don't remember which one.
yeah, it was when C-3PO in Empire, when he gets separated before he gets blasted and then has to ride around on Chewie's back, he stumbles in and sees another protocol droid, and so he's like, hi, hi. He goes, Ichuta. Oh, how rude, and
Some kind of curse, but I don't
oh
know
yeah,
what
I
I
think it's
don't know
pretty
what it
much
means.
fu, in Star Wars language. Make up your own swear words. Like not Battlefront, Battlestar Galactica has their own curse words, so they can literally swear with the same inflection. They're not saying the
But they
word.
can put it on TV.
Yes, and even in the books, they're swearing in Star Wars, but it's instead of the F word, it would be like criffing. This criffing stinks, or whatever it would be, so they would come up and it's like, oh, come on, you're kind of taking us out of it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Ichuta, but it was very enunciated. It's like, okay. And Boba's like, we spared your life, but you're going to curse me? Well, if you're not going to talk, then
Rancor time.
that was awesome. Because his eyes got big and he fell. And I was hoping that we would see not necessarily the Rancor, but the pit.
Yeah.
But he doesn't want to be that type of person.
Mm-hmm.
But the gate starts to rise, and I thought for a moment, oh my God, he got another one.
No, that's not what you thought.
I
You
did.
thought it was the same one.
Well, the same way, but the thing died.
Yes, but you thought
Obviously.
it was the same
Well,
one.
maybe he just had a headache.
A headache.
Yeah.
It
Or
stopped
neck ache.
breathing.
He did stop breathing. But so that was fun. How really that was it. They were calling that guy's bluff, and this was them all in. But I thought the first funny thing that I really enjoyed was after he goes, the mayor sent me, the mayor sent me. And then Fennec goes, it's empty. And then she says, what did she say? She goes, oh, order of the night wind. Like so much contempt, so much like, and she kept saying it while he was even up there. You're just paying for the name. You're just paying for this stuff because the 88 droid was really pumping him up.
Anyone can say that they're gonna kill you, but when you put them into a cage with a vicious animal,
He
yeah.
cowers. Yeah. And that's crazy. And his eyes got so big and it was awesome. So anyways, they bluffed and they found out. So then the next scene is them back in the streets heading, like they did in the first episode when they were walking around getting to know people and such. But there was one main difference in them walking down. And literally they walked the entire length of this street, no talking. But Boba is not walking around in just clothes. He's walking around in his armor.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked awesome.
Did,
Boba is back.
didn't he do that in the first one?
He wasn't wearing his. Well,
Yes, he was. He had the
oh,
helmet
you're
off.
right because he had his helmet off.
Yeah.
Totally wrong.
Oh,
Oh,
that's
that
sad.
all happened one and only time.
One and only time.
But anyway, it just looked cool in a way because you knew he was ready for business. He
Yeah.
had his gun, he had everything going. No talking, and everybody stopped and watched and looked. You saw these Trandoshans, the boss type characters, over on the side looking at him, and everybody. This is the same location that the hit was put out on him, and he's returned,
Mm-hmm.
and he's not scared, and they have a prisoner, and they go and talk to the mayor, and the mayor is Mok Skyeg. I think I said that right.
Yeah.
Mok Skyeg,
That's
and
close.
he's an Ithorian, which I enjoy the Ithorians when we see them. They're called Hammerheads. They were in the old cantina in the first movie, and we saw them. With the old Clone War micro series, one of the Jedi's is an Ithorian
Yeah.
that fights Grievous. The thing with Ithorians, they can't talk like humans, and
The
so you
thingy.
did hear a voiceover, which the voiceover, according to IMDb, is Robert Rodriguez again. So the director of the last episode.
I thought you were gonna spring it on me that it was that guy that you wanted to do a cameo.
How? Oh, the
That would
other
have
guy, Chris
sucked.
O'Dowd or O'Dowd. Yeah, that would have been great. But it looked. I thought the animation or the CGI of the, whether it was a motion cap or just completely, I
Kind
thought it
of
looked good.
furry.
What's that?
Had like furry.
Did he have
He,
fur on
he,
him?
he was furry.
I'll have to watch that again. But he has the four throats, the throats on the side, and you could see them move. But he had to have some sort of vocoder or vocabulator type thing, so that we could hear it. But he didn't seem too menacing. He seemed intelligent.
He knew what he was doing.
He did know what he was doing. He didn't seem to be that upset about, well, not upset, but influenced or scared of Boba. And Boba walking in, the clerk is like, "Do you have an appointment?" It was a kind of comedic moment until the major domo comes over, and he just walks right by him anyways. But we find out that if we are to believe the mayor, said he didn't send these. He didn't send the hitman, because he says the Night Order, Night Wind, Order of the Night Wind, doesn't travel or work outside of Hutt space.
They shoot him.
Tatooine, technically, in
It's
the
not
books, if I
anymore,
remember right, it was Hutt space. Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Until a little bit when the twins show up to make a claim. But with that being said, we hear the word daimyo. Daimyo. And that's the first time I think
Big
I've
boss.
noticed that. I'm the boss. And it sounded like of Tatooine. And when we've looked at maps of Tatooine, we just see like a map of Lord of the Rings. So there are cities sprinkled around, but that's just a section. That's not the entire planet. But, this Jabba had a big, wide, reaching empire on that planet. And so at the end of the Mok Skaig, and they kill the guy, they kill the assassin, and he gives him, here's the bounty on this guy. And Boba
takes it as tribute.
Because he's not a what anymore. He says, "I'm not a bounty hunter." And it was kind of like, oh, and then, the mayor goes, "I heard otherwise." And he goes, "I'll take this as a tribute for what you should have paid me." So anyways, we find out the Mok guy said, "I got some advice for you. Take it as my tribute." He says, go talk to Garza Fwip, the Twi'lek bartender lady, hostess, and Fwip, and find out some information. And so he, I don't know, crosses the street, but he goes back out and he goes to the sanctuary, which we were debating last episode whether it was a casino or just a bar.
Wasn't much debate there.
Well, to me it was, and I didn't go back and pause it and look, but it really looked like a casino.
Yeah.
This time. Whether they were playing Sabak in the front or some sort of 21 blackjack, there were definite cards and money chips on the table, not just
they were oddly colored. I don't think I've seen any like Sabak cards.
I don't know. I thought I saw something in their hand,
it was
but
green, and then there was like an orange
kind. So they're gaming. So it is a place to kick back. And she's a little bit distracted, upset, and Boba notices it, and she talks about the Hutts, the Jabba's,
the twins,
cousins from Nal Hutta, a neighboring planet, not necessarily in the solar system, but you'd have to look at one of those galactic atlases to see that. But it's in the region, and they put a claim on Tatooine. Keep it in the family. Maybe it was in his will. I don't know. In the books, Hutts can live to be 1,000 years. So there's not a lot of turnover unless they
kill them,
get killed. Do something bad. But whether it's Zero the Hutt, in the Clone Wars, or Jabba.
They said during this episode that you need permission to kill one of the Hutts.
Need permission to kill a Hutt.
Permission from what?
I don't know. Another Hutt?
They just said that, like, I think it was the Garza Fwip lady, because something like, we can't kill them. We need permission. You need permission to kill them or something.
And I don't know who you might have to get that from their other families, so that you'd have to find out. It would have to be profitable to them. I don't know. But I mean, Leia didn't get permission, and she turned out all right.
Illegal.
We got to see Max Rebo again real quickly, which made me smile a little bit. And then as they're talking, they start to hear some drums, and this got to a cool part. And if you look back at Boba's face, he looks very chill and not really
nonchalant.
Yeah, very nonchalant. And he just walks outside, and they wait. And then all of a sudden, You see the biggest litter possible. They kept referencing how Boba doesn't have a litter. And all of a sudden, we see two massive huts on a massive litter
That
being
would was
carried
so
by,
heavy.
I don't know what. How
It
many
was like
people?
8 or so.
Oh, it's got to be more than
10.
that. I mean,
I
those things
I
are
counted
so fat.
10,
Did
but
you count 10?
they must be ripped.
I would have guessed 15 or so, but that's close. But there were just a ton, and they just came swinging around the corner. I mean, they took up the entire street. It's like when you're driving down the road and one of those semi trailers that have a big propeller from a wind turbine or a big mobile home like a double wide,
Yeah.
and you have to pull to the side. I mean, this was a wide load coming down, and so they show up. Talk to us about what they wanted.
That's difficult.
Well, they
I
whip
guess
out a guy with a contract,
yeah, they kind of
so
wanted oh, yeah. Uh I guess they said since it was the Hutt's place, even though it was previously under Bib Fortuna, so I don't know why they were getting it. Why they weren't
that's a great,
getting handsy over them.
that's a great point. Why didn't they come here
They probably
when
did.
and Bib took care of them? I don't know. Maybe he gave them a tribute, but all of a sudden,
It's their land again because I don't know, they don't respect him enough, and
I guess
they it's Hutt area, it's
when
Hutt
people
space.
pass, usually families get the remnants of whatever it is, if
Yeah,
it's a house or wealth or whatever.
but he died a
Yeah, he
long
did
time
die.
ago from
Well, here's the thing that got cleared up through me prepping for this episode. In Star Wars, it's just like now with our years. We have AD and BC,
there. Hmm.
BC before Christ, and so it's like that's year zero almost. In Star Wars, the zero isn't the birth of Christ; it's the Battle of Yavin, which is the first Death Star
Hmm.
blowing up. So it's called before BBY, before the Battle of Yavin,
Weird spot to put it.
right? But it's the you can't really say the birth of the rebellion now with all the movies and other stuff talking,
Yeah,
prior.
yeah.
But that's the first movie starts there, and so Jabba dies 4 years after the Battle of Yavin, and so between A New Hope, the Death Star, and Return of the Jedi, it's only 4 years. Okay,
So
Mando
yeah,
is
when does that take
9 years
place?
after, so there's a
So there's a
5 year gap.
5 year.
So
Okay,
when his flashbacks are from
like right then.
Sarlacc for after year four.
So what's he doing for 5 years?
That's my question. Because within that 5 years, he has to meet up with Mando, get his armor, and come back and be the Godfather
Yeah.
thing that we are at right now.
Hmm.
And so, how much time does he really spend with the Tuscans?
I wouldn't say that much.
Because he didn't have to recuperate too much,
Yeah.
dehydrated. Now he's how long does that take to train? And as we'll talk about in a bit, because right after this, we go into flashback, they dress him up, they fully accept him, and the closing shot is a big ceremonial dance, and he is a Tuscan through and through now. Well, he's never had a family. It was just his dad, and then the dad's been gone forever. So is this a community that he wants to stay with?
I'd say so. I'm predicting a lot more than just one more episode of flashbacks. Seeing how this one was like the way majority of the episode, and you see, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah,
But
we'll get there.
yeah,
We'll get there because I just am curious. But so timeline wise, this is 9 years after. When we're in the present time, it's 9 years after the
yep.
Battle of Yavin. So 5 years after Jabba died. So why didn't they show up when Jabba died 5 years ago? Bib's been running it for five. So I don't know. But also there was a nice line right at the end of there. The mayor says running a family is more complicated than bounty hunting. Like you don't bite off more than you can chew, Boba.
Hmm.
This isn't going to be as come and go, do what you want. It's going to. There's a game that needs to be played.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So yeah, so we see the twins. But the coolest part of this scene for me, and I remember watching it, and I was like, whoa, when, excuse me, they bring out the big black dark Wookiee who looks mammoth. Mammoth. And if you go back and Chewie never looked mammoth. he was tall, but he looked
Whoa.
very thin. He raises his arm, and you can see it's kind of a man in a big dog or monkey suit, right?
Yep.
And especially in Solo, when he's running around fighting, he just looks like a tall, skinny thing. This one looked built.
Beefcake.
I don't know if he's like one of those cats that are real furry, but you shave him down and they're all the same size. Like, does he style or use product in his wavy hair?
I don't think it's any magic, I think.
He's a big boy.
This guy does push-ups.
He does push-ups. But I'm like, that guy is awesome. And a Boba says, you didn't need to bring a gladiator here.
Cool.
So he knows the guy. And that made me wonder what's going on with this. So I did some research, and he does have a name. He shows up in the comics, the Darth Vader comics that are out, and has a history during the era of the original trilogy movies. Vader, he works for Jabba. He works for Vader as a bounty hunter. He was trained as a gladiator before he became a bounty hunter. He worked with Boba on a mission, according to Wikipedia, and his time in the comics. And he worked around with, there's a young girl who might show up. It's in this era-ish. Her name was Doc Afra. She is a young female, like archaeologist who works for really anybody on both sides. So she's not like especially early on, she's not that heroine type person.
Archaeologist.
Yeah, it's kind of like Indiana Jones.
An archaeologist for hire.
Yeah, well,
what's that really gonna do?
Go find me holocrons. Go
Oh.
find me other
That's not
things.
really an archaeologist. That's just like a man in the field searching for things.
Isn't that what Indy does?
Yeah, but he's an archaeologist as
So
like yeah, but they teach though.
Well,
they teach, and that's how they're learning.
Well, not all archaeologists necessarily have to be a teacher as well. He worked for a university, and so he had to teach.
Which he was a teacher.
The point being that this guy, he has a name. His name is Black, then Krrsantan, Krrsantan. Black Krrsantan. And they call him a bunch of names with Doc After. They call him Black K or BK or Santy.
Big K.
But there are comics where he fights Obi-Wan, where he's there to rough up Owen Lars, and yeah. So I'm like, I kind of want to see this, but he's an awesome fighter. It looks like he's scary, and when Chewie, he goes, they're light. Mm-hmm. And this dude's was like a lion growl. Like, was it? Like a Roy Kent.
Not really. That's more guttural.
From Ted Lasso.
This is just...
Wow. Well, my daughter seemed to think so, and I like that idea, right? But anyways, good. So the Hutts leave, and that's the end. That is the end of the new stuff. Any idea how many minutes we've watched at this particular point? Because the next scene is him and Bacta, and then we spend the rest of the episode in flashback.
I say 12 to 15 minutes.
Well, yeah, it was 14. Great guess.
All right. Perfect. Right in the middle.
Very good. Around 14, 17, or 18. And again, some of that was
just... Go back and count?
No, I went and pulled it up and looked.
Oof.
I was curious because that episode kept going, and I kept waiting for it to come back to the present. But the main plot is throughout here. There was an interesting moment before we do this. When the big Wookiee, Black K, walks out, and he has the gun, and they're talking about, you're going to have to kill me. That's the only way you're going to get Tatooine back. Fennec cocks her gun.
What? How did she switch the clip thing?
Well, are there clips?
There are clips, because I know that, like, in the texts and stuff, they talk about, like in the Clone Wars, that they'd run out of ammo because it was those, like, energy clips, which were set with, like, 500
power,
volts or so.
though?
It is.
So it power packs.
It shoots, like, plasma.
That's my thing. So why?
I don't know why you're just now
There's no
switching
projectiles, right? They're laser blasts.
Yes. They're just
so why would you cock?
To get it to set in? I don't know.
Just to double. But I didn't think about the power pack aspect.
For like a handgun, you like pull it back, and that's just to load like it to get shoved up a little bit. But I don't understand why they do cock it for a laser gun, unless this is a projectile.
And maybe it is because it's such a long range.
But
maybe I don't know.
In
But it's a
I think it
laser.
was called the Gunslinger. She shoots a
Yes.
laser. Maybe it's a different gun because
I
it
bet
got.
it's
I
I
think it
bet
got
it's the
kicked
same.
away from her, but she probably picked it
Yeah, in
up.
that big fight when we meet her. So he's back in Bacta. So then all of a sudden he is only able to is he having nightmares? Is he
That's what I think it
dreaming?
is because like through this you also see the flashbacks that we saw in the first episode with the Attack of the Clones things. Like he's in the
Yeah.
arena holding the helmet, and
He's
it's
processing his pain, maybe.
yeah. That's why in the first one you get shots back at him, and you kind of like winces a little bit, like when
Little
his dad
jolt.
dies, and it's like,
Hmm.
eh.
Good point. Yeah. So we're back with the Tuscans, and so after saving the young boy and killing that monster, in the first one, you see him training. You see him with the thinner um, Tuscan, the warrior, showing him how to hold it, and he's getting frustrated. He goes, "I'm doing what you're doing," and he's not. And whether it's the stance or grabbing the weapon, you see he's really working at it. There was something cool in this scene, though. You see people like raking and plowing.
Yes, this is. I was going to talk about
Yeah,
this.
go ahead.
I was wondering, because you see halfway through this scene, there's this bug guy sort of like pop out of the sand and like run away to the hill, and they shoot it.
Yeah, like this. If it was a wild pig,
Yeah,
it
something like
just
that.
unearths itself out of the sand and runs.
What I was wondering is the bantha pulling the sort of like a rake. I was wondering if it either is looking for the black melons,
Yes.
which is the water source, or if it's looking for those animals as like their food,
That
like
that's
just
exactly what
tilling the
I don't
soil.
know. I'd like to think because in the first one they go specifically to harvest these melons
Yeah,
for the milk. I think is what he says later on to
but
the Pikes
they use their hands for it,
to dig
which
them
is
out,
weird.
to dig them out.
But
But with
they see it on the
this,
surface though.
so maybe they were planting.
Yeah, well, they were picking it up.
Well, it looked to
Well,
me like they were
maybe.
tilling,
Because that
like you
makes
would
sense
in a
how
farmer
they
field.
go in the first one. They go exactly to where they were
Right.
there, so they probably do
I
plant it.
think that they're because they have to learn how to live and survive off the land. And so if they found something that can nourish them, I think they're planting it. I could be wrong, but I think that it was just dumb luck that this animal just
Yeah,
is he just laying under there? Is he waiting to grasp on and steal something like a sarlacc?
the sand monster guy in the
What
first
is
one did
happening
that.
under the sands of Tatooine? There's a whole life
Everything
ecosystem under there. But yeah, I
Hollow
found
Earth
that
theory.
interesting. Totally. It's not really relevant to the overall thing, but just the little details I found pretty cool. Um, oh, the Black Tuscan,
Yes,
the warrior. I've always thought that person is just really athletic and jumping around. That's why it's not as bulky as some of the other Tuscans or as wide as Boba.
or it's a kid.
It's a woman. I don't know if it's supposed to be a woman or if it's just the
How
actor.
did you find this out?
IMDb,
Oh,
and she's a stunt person.
maybe.
She has done stunt work. Listen to this. She has done stunt work for Wonder Woman. She's Gal Gadot's stunt double.
Which one?
Captain Marvel. She's Brie Larson's stunt double. In Aquaman, she's Mira,
Oh, yeah.
the stunt double there. And in Endgame, she did Captain Marvel again and Nebula.
Oh,
So I
cool.
mean, and she moves and she's fantastic. But I never thought about
Hmm.
the women of Tuscans.
I mean, how would they survive, regardless, without them?
Well, you would need them to
Yeah.
procreate for sure. So we were talking a bit ago. So it's got me thinking, how long does he stay? And then out of all the Tuscans, he has a bond with this person, whether he knows it's a woman, whether or not, but there's a bond. There is acceptance. There's nods at the end. They build a gaffy together. They train together. They're the first two to dance at the end.
Well, I think building the Gaffy together was just,
It's a rite of
yeah,
passage.
not just those two.
But she's the one, though, that took him over or met him there to get it made. And she stood there while it got made. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
she is invested in him. Could he stay for a woman with the Tuscans for a bit?
Well,
Can he fall in love?
yes. I think that's a
Is
bit
Star Wars going to
sketchy.
get romantic on you?
it already did get
Yeah, it
romantic.
did.
Have
Very.
you seen the prequels?
Yeah, I did. a couple times.
I don't think so, but it would be a nice angle for it to go.
And then how does he leave? Something is gonna maybe he falls in love and then there's death. Something happens and he has to leave, or does he voluntarily leave on his own? But she wants him to stay, like the krill farmer wanted Mando to stay.
But then, if that does happen, why does he end up going to claim Jabba's throne? Why does he?
Something has to happen.
Why would he go and kill Bib Fortuna and then this just seems like out of left field?
Well,
Just
he didn't go
go and get
leave
it.
them to go do that. He went and bumped into
Well,
Boba
I know,
or Mando to
I
get his
know for the
gear.
Mandalorian thing, but
Yeah,
why afterwards does he go and play Godfather
yeah,
in
and go
on
back to his
Tatooine?
place. I don't know.
Yeah.
I hope that we get to see this person and it's either a character that I don't know, but I doubt they'll take the stuff off
No,
because they
never.
don't speak, and the masks and everything. In the canon, the Tuscans wear all of the clothing and they have no skin, uncovered because they want to keep their moisture from evaporating. Okay, but even though Boba becomes a full-fledged Tuscan, he's fine, bald head. He looks like a Jedi wearing black robes
Yeah.
when he gets dressed there at the very end. Okay, so he's back. He's training. We can agree that there's a definite there's a connection between these two. At least that. I'm not saying it's romantic.
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to just think of what is going to want, because he just became a Tuscan. He's not leaving. He's going to stay for a bit, but why?
If it is the lady who beat him up in the first one, I don't know. Seeing him go from this weak, dead guy who's trying to run away to now we're saving the kid. Now we're learning the gaffy
And
stick.
stop the train.
Now we're gonna go blow up the train.
Yeah.
Don't know.
I don't know either. So that'll be something to look at. But I don't know how much more, because they're checking the boxes for how did he survive?
We've got everything
How did
now.
now that he has his gaffy?
Besides leaving.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, the train, which is the big thing. The train comes blasting out of nowhere. And once it gets within range, the train starts opening up fire and killing banthas and people.
Crazy good
And then
name.
just keeps going, unprovoked.
Not unprovoked.
Tuscans weren't shooting at it.
Yes. However, closer to the end, we thought they were savage raiders, is
Of
what they
course.
said. They thought that they were going to steal their stuff,
Yeah, I don't buy that though.
but they said that.
They said it, but you got to look at it. It's the
Okay,
Pikes, a
okay,
criminal
okay.
organization.
But why are the criminal organizations going and killing the local people?
Why not?
But why?
You guys, they blast by them with such a train, with such speed on the train. I don't think that those Tuscans can really mount. They can't do any damage to it, even their bullets. The Pikes are the ones who whip open the window and just start railing on them. I don't know. I don't believe him. I don't think he was sincere. He wasn't honest about the spice. He wasn't honest here. I
Yeah.
just see him trying to protect himself. So this big train comes blasting through. It looked like something like Snowpiercer through a desolate wasteland, right? And doesn't stop and just keeps going.
I was gonna actually connect it to the solo train,
Yes.
because like even
Right.
while they're like fighting on it later in the show, they pull up the hatches and hide behind it, shoot over it, moving around,
Yeah, that
going
is a
out of
really good.
cars.
And that was a good fight scene there.
It was just familiar.
So this train comes and it does that. And okay, this is a nerd thing. They call it a train.
It's not a train. It's not on the ground.
But, and this is weird for somebody who probably hasn't been exposed to as much expanded universe as me. They stay away from earthwords as much as possible.
Grav.
Cars are
Track.
speeders,
Yeah.
right? Coffee is called calf. Concrete, they call it duracrete. I mean, they have these windows are transparent steel. So they, you know what I mean? They call it, instead of wild goose chase, they say a wild bantha chase. So they don't speak like we do on here, even though they speak English, which they call basic,
Yeah.
galactic basic. I don't know. It just jumped out. I'm like, that word seems out of place, even though it is obviously a train.
Do you just want every single word to be non-Earth words?
Everything else is. It's not money, it's credits.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't know.
right.
It's just this world and universe they've created. It's just nitpicking stuff. And so anyways, the people died. Boba is carrying a kid to the fire for it to be consumed and burned. And then he goes, I'll be back in the morning. I'm going to stop the train.
Well, because he sees the speeders go by first, which is
He sees what 5 or so speeders
five
take off,
fish.
and so he leaves. And where are the speeders? What's the next scene?
They're at some sort of like bar thing. I don't just in
It's
the
a bar.
midst of Tatooine, the Dune Sea just there. Just pulls in, starts whipping out his the rifle, I think at first, and then beating up everybody, and he breaks the rifle, I
He
think.
uses his stick. He uses.
Yeah,
It's not a
afterwards, but
gaffy yet,
he
but it's
pulls
a
out the
stick.
rifle and he whips it, and then it cracks on a guy's head
Mm.
and it breaks. So then he pulls out the gaffy stick,
Practice stick, yeah.
and then he beats their heads in with that. And
Why doesn't anybody shoot him? They have guns.
do they?
The Niktos? The Nikto gang? I thought I saw guns. Why wouldn't they have guns? They're gangs. It's just he's fighting
I
one
think
person with his back to
they
him,
tried to shoot, but
and then he
he just
knocks somebody
blocked it.
down, and then they're all just standing there waiting for their turn. Like he could have probably won if they wanted to. There are a couple cameos in this one. The first of which, the bartender.
Yeah.
To me, he looks like on Saved by the Bell. He looks like Mr. Belding, the principal, if he was a little heavier and a mustache. He is a dead ringer for Mr. Belding.
Funny.
So, but it's the man and woman who are sitting there awkwardly, and the man says something under his breath, and that starts up a fight with the Niktos. But I didn't know who they were. They don't reference them by name. But if you look in IMDb, their names are Fixer and Cammy. Now, these two people, they shot a scene in A New Hope that got cut. And so you'll have to look at the Blu-ray, maybe a DVD for deleted scenes. But the first time we ever see Luke Skywalker, he's actually hanging out with Cammy and Fixer in Biggs, Darklighter, who he meets Biggs later for the run on the Death Star. And Luke has some binoculars and they're looking up in the sky at, look, a space battle. And it's daylight, but they can see the Tantive 4 being captured and shot at by Vader. But I think they enjoyed Luke's showing up, with the Jawa Sandcrawler later on as his first time. But so this scene was cut. Those two people are Luke's friends. I don't know if they're going to talk again or ever show up, but that's...
Is this good enough for you, like that random kid who was Anakin's friend?
Oh, I'm waiting on Kitster. Anakin grew up in Mos Espa. Watto still has to have a store in Mos Espa.
He's just this random
Say
guy.
Boba could still be walking around.
He died.
No, he didn't.
Didn't he? Thought he exploded.
He wrecked, and then he goes,
poodoo. Yeah.
Right? Another swear word.
Poodoo.
So the bar fight, really very similar to the first time we see Mando walk into a bar.
Yes.
On that
That's
icy
the
planet.
Ichuta Mando part.
Ichuta Mando. But when he walks in the door, the same type of thing. It's a whoosh, and then he's there and silhouetted. But yes, he's not wearing his gear, but it is Boba in the flesh. So they fight. And then he walks out, he takes a shot or finishes a drink, and then he goes out and he just walks up and down the speeder bike row. It looks straight up like a biker bar, how they all line up next to each other. In a comedy, they knock one and it dominoes all of them over. So I thought he was going to do something like that until you see him take one, and then all of a sudden he had
ropes
towed all of them. So he takes them back to the camp where they commence doing...
Actually, before that, I'd like to say that I was like putting on my glasses, my very speculation glasses. The bad guys that he blows up in the bar.
Niktos.
Were those the same guys who were in The Mandalorian, the planet with the soup and the drink with the krill farm?
Yes.
Were those the same Raider guys? I wondered if some of them escaped and then went over to the...
You mean when they fought the ATST walker? Maybe some of them. I think it's more of
Well, on the actual speeder bikes, you could see like the gang sign that they put on the homestead earlier, which also I'm wondering if those were the prisoner guys from that homestead. But also, I went back and watched that Mandalorian episode. I can't remember what it's called. And like in the back, you can see that sign again.
No way.
On like, it's for like a quick second, and it's on the back of the ATST.
Well, maybe it's a multi-planet organization gang.
I don't know.
But I did wonder if these were the ones who we see in the first one ripping off that moisture farmer and graffiti tagging the
Yeah,
hut.
that's what I wondered, if they were those people
And
and they'd
maybe
stood there.
that's where he recognized them, and so he followed them, and then he stole the bikes.
Maybe that's where he saw the speeder
It
bikes
could
for the
be.
first time.
But so he has the plan. So they come back with the speeders. Are you ready to move on, or
Yeah, I'm ready.
okay? And he shows, I'm going to train you. And this is where I see some of those comedic moments, because it's like a parent teaching their kid how to drive. Push it forward to go, pull back to stop, and you can't speak the same language, so you just kind of have to you don't have a big parking lot as a
Yeah,
school or a church to practice with, right?
you have
You
the
got
entirety of the
you
Dune
got
Sea.
you got all of the Dune Sea, and it starts off really slow, and then they practice maneuvers, and they get their feels, and you can't see them smiling, but you kind
They're
of
having
feel it in their
fun.
body language that they're having fun. I have so much enjoyed, more than I would have ever thought, learning about Tuscans, starting with the Marshall episode from Mando with the Crate Dragon and Cobb Vanth. Add that along with these two episodes and just see their way of life. They're not animals. I
Hmm.
killed them like animals, like
Yeah.
Anakin did. They're not. They are people who struggle, and they have their own society, which you get to see when the elder is talking to Boba, inside the tent about the previous tribes and such.
In addition to that, in the first Mandalorian season, the Gunslinger episode, uh, they're going by, but then they get stopped by the Tuscans, and you have to trade with them because this is their land.
They
And
got to
he's
pay a
being so
toll.
respectful about it,
Hmm.
and just having this toll makes them seem more human to us. How we have our toll roads, they have
Hmm.
their land that they basically rent off to people just passing through.
And we will. They would say you're unmolested. You will not be bothered. And so if you pay the toll, you're fine. We won't bother you. Maybe those are Tuscans held over, because that's 9 after the Battle of Yavin, year 9, and this is 5 years before that, or some. So maybe this is a direct relation to
I don't
Boba's
know.
influence.
Well, we'd have to look like on the map if they're in Mos Pelgo in
Yeah, who knows how far
in
away that is.
the Marshall compared to where in Mos Eisley where Pelimato was, going all the way to the big mountains at the
You
edge
know.
of the map.
But remember, they're
Uh,
on speeders and they can haul.
well, that's fair,
Yeah.
but they only have like 5 of them though.
They have 5. And
5.
so they coordinate. It looks like one the Fast and the Furious, where they have to bust the cars out of the train. Any old train heist movie,
Yeah.
you pull up next to it. It's coordinated. We're not on horses this time like it would be in the Wild West, but they pull up, and man, action
Yeah.
right after the comedy scene. So that's why I think this Steph Green did a wonderful job. So many different balls she's juggling with being entertaining. The action is definitely in this scene. And so the fight on the top of the train going fast. And I do have a question for you, because it turns out now we know they're Pikes. We couldn't really see them the first time the train went
No.
through, but everybody's a great shot. They hit from a mile away,
Yeah.
and then even Tuscans can shoot the Pikes through the windows from a long distance. I mean, this thing's flying.
We're not dealing with stormtroopers here, though. These
That
people have survived hunting in the
you
desert
know
where
what? That's
they're
exactly.
scrawling around, and I don't
You
know. I
if you
mean,
can't shoot, you
they're
can't eat.
pikes, so
You can't eat. And so the Pikes, we finally get to see Pikes, and that's cool, because the only experience I've had with the Pikes, the main one in live format, was in Solo.
just one guy.
And the Pikes ran the Kessel mines of uh, 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 the spice mines of Kessel, rather, and that is where in Solo they go, because they've unearthed a vein of unrefined coaxium, where for the plot of the Solo movie they got to go and steal that to pay off their debt for the train that you referenced a bit ago. Han cut bait and
Yeah.
they lost the coaxium. So the Pikes appeared to be ruthless, and Dryden Voss, the Paul Bettany character, didn't want them to go do that,
Nope.
because he goes, no, no, no. Crimson Dawn has
A
a
relationship.
very delicate relationship with the Pikes, and we can't cause an upheaval. Okay, and so that's why Han and Beckett say, well, they don't know we work for you, so it's fine.
I wonder now, since you brought that back up, I'm wondering if maybe one of the forces that drives him to go all Godfather is, I mean, if the Pikes at this point are in a relationship with Crimson Dawn still,
Mm-hmm.
they might come and I don't know, do something
This is
to
what I was
Tatooine.
thinking more and more as I was piecing my thoughts together
Send his
with the
yacht
Pikes
over.
and what the Pikes mean. It's not just who they are, it's who they are connected with. And so Boba is, in essence, taxing them for using this train route.
I don't think this can actually happen though, because remember the end of Solo? She she kind of
Kira?
yeah, she goes off. There's no like basically no more Crimson Dawn.
Oh,
There's
yeah,
still
there
people,
is.
but she doesn't really command it anymore.
No, who commands it? Remember the
Darth
hologram?
Maul.
Darth Maul is still
But
alive
I mean, Dryden Voss, the man in the
in
chair,
Solo. And
he's
remember,
gone.
this is before
Yeah,
Yavin.
this is before
Okay.
still, but that still takes effect now.
Yes.
So I don't understand why there'd still be.
We
I
haven't
don't know.
seen
When I
Crimson Dawn
figured
end.
they go off, there wouldn't be really any more relationship with that.
She went off, no relationship with Han. She went off to go back to
I
Crimson
know
Dawn,
she went off with the with Darth Maul.
Dodge Mall. So Crimson Dawn, the last we have not heard them being dead and done. So I think it's safe to say that maybe they might be upset now, and Crimson Dawn
Yeah,
could show up because you're getting taxing our friends,
that
and
would be fun.
it's really interesting because Darth Maul is dead, but Kira, who knows what's going on with that if she's still around. So the Pikes were. We also saw them in Bad Batch as some sort
Yes,
of thuggish importer, exporter,
yes,
smugglers type
yeah.
people.
Also in Clone Wars
Clone
too.
Wars episode or two,
Yeah,
but
because I remember they got trapped by the Pikes, Ahsoka and a couple of people.
and we never saw their faces. It was always the mask, and so they finally remove it,
It's
and they're
like
kind of
fish
fishy.
people,
They
fish
got little
frogs.
tendrils off on their cheeks, etc. But Pikes are really interesting to me just because we don't know much about them. But to see them and the Black Wookie, um, Star Wars nerd inside of me, some of the new, because the Pikes started out in cartoons and then went to the movie, right around that era, and then now they're in the show. Well, with the Wookiee, he started out in the comic books, so he is now live action and truly canon, and I'm just interested to see what's coming next. How are we going to be
What do
surprised?
you mean by truly canon?
Oh, we talked a little bit about it either in our first or
Does it
second
have to be
episode.
Disney to be
Star
canon?
Wars had a very 30 years of,
A
if not
purge.
more, of stories. You know, Han and Leia had three kids:
Ooh.
Anakin Solo and Jaina and Jason, who are twins. And Jason goes to the dark side, and she has to kill him. And their youngest son, Anakin Solo, died. But none of that exists anymore because when Disney bought, they turned that all into legend.
Oh.
Okay. So once Disney has to now either reintroduce it or say, yes, that's canon. But for the most part, it's just the stuff that Disney produces. So I'm sure all the comics that have been done since then are canon, which is why Black K would have been in the Darth Vader comics, and Clone Wars and Bad Batch. These later seasons are underneath the Disney moniker.
So we could, while you're saying that, Darth Bane is not
Darth
canon,
Bane is not canon.
but the Black Wookie is now that he's been introduced
Yes.
to
Now he's in the stories, and now
the
they
Book
can
of
play
Boba
with him.
Fett. Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
So I'm waiting for a Star Wars Disney Plus show on Darth Bane, go back to the old Republic and do some of that stuff. Awesome. Yes, please. I mean, you can go get Dave Bautista or somebody. He might be too old to be the young, strong
Gotta
Bane,
be
but he's that
young, big
body
boy.
size. So, anyways, I enjoyed the Pikes. Afterwards, after they stopped the train. One last thing. They're kind of pinned down on the train. They haven't stopped it yet. And then the black clothed Tusken comes driving up, slams the
Yeah,
bike into the train and launches herself in, jumps in the window, cleans house. Instantly, you see people thrown out and some more comedy. And then you
stands up in
see
the
at,
middle.
at, at the top, you see her look, figure out, then disappear. And then she starts
Two
pulling
guys pull
people and
off.
they
Yeah,
just go away. And then you see the little spider robot droid jump out of a window instead of dealing with Boba. And
yeah,
I don't know. I found things more amusing in this than I expected, but it had such a great action scene as well.
yeah. That this is just not really obscure, but sort of obscure. The one thing that really reminded me of the Polar Express was that
Oh yeah,
spider droid
climb.
jumping out because like
Okay.
they're on the ice and they're all like screaming and yelling and
Yeah.
stuff and they're all like spinning around and then somebody goes off the train. I don't know who or if they're important. I know it's not the conductor or the homeless guy, but somebody goes off.
Yeah. It's probably one of the many
Somebody.
Tom Hanks characters.
He's like
He
for
serves his point and then he
everybody.
disappears. Um, so I'm interested in potential Crimson Dawn just because of the Pikes and what we know of them based on the Solo movie, that they do have a connection with Crimson Dawn. And if Boba is establishing an order of mobs
Ooh, he
or
might
whatever
get in.
here, maybe he's going to butt heads with Crimson Dawn, who sounds to me like a syndicate that's multi-planetary
Yeah.
or galactic, So I find that interesting. So finally, that's great, but it's not done yet. Now it's the celebration of Boba where he comes back and they,
Fire dance.
well, not quite fire dance. He still has to do the gaffy and
Yeah.
stuff. And so I found that really intriguing because he kind of has to go on a hallucinogenic
So
walkabout,
weird.
like out in the outback. It was strange, but
Yeah.
how did he get the hallucinating?
Uh, as a reward, the Tuscans like said, "May this guide you," and they threw a lizard at him, or more accurately, they threw a bunch of powder in his face, and then uh, the lizard crawls up into his head, and
Up
then
his
yeah,
nose. Do you remember in
how
the
else are you gonna
Clone
get
Wars
there?
cartoon on Geonosis,
The
they had
brain
those
worm.
brain worms
Yeah,
that
that's what
zombied
I thought
them
it
or
was
something?
for a second. I'm
I
like,
did too. I'm like, what's
no,
going on? But all of a sudden, he starts to get hazy, and then we go into a trippy montage, which reminded me of a very violent movie called Natural Born Killers, where there's a lot of montages and psychedelic stuff that happens. And so he goes on a journey, and he goes and just walks in the desert and finds a tree, whether that was true or not. But
I mean,
once he,
how do you get the stick though?
how do they burn any fire? They made the gaffy and they kept sticking it in the fire like they're smelting metal.
I don't know.
What do they burn?
How do they get the metal?
Well, there's metal on things. Remember how they started taking apart the speeder? So they're scavengers,
Yeah, but
like how did Rey get all her stuff? Not that there's a big
scavenging. There's no,
Star
yeah,
Destroyer
there's no
upside
Star
down.
Destroyers on Tatooine.
But I was thinking about the tree. We've never seen it, but they do talk about, oceans. There used to be oceans on the planet, but I don't think it was in that lifetime. So I doubt that there was a lot of tree staying. But somehow he found a tree, and in his hallucination, he's getting completely engulfed by this tree. And he's panicking because all of a sudden he's in the intestines or the innards of the Sarlacc again. He's
Yeah,
thinking back on his dad.
just falling around, kind of turns into the armor for a second, and then back into
Yeah.
the white jumpsuit.
And then and the tree is coming around him, which I know I referenced Game of Thrones the other day, but the three-eyed raven north of the wall, it really looked like that was what was going to happen. That the tree was going to become him until he grabbed, and broke the stick. And then we see water explode and there's an ocean scene. I don't know. And we're not going to, but
Don't question
he
psychedelics.
comes just walking back into town and they pull the lizard out and he goes, oh, I thought that was a dream. And oh, I got a stick. So he had no idea what he was doing.
I don't know. It's a metaphorical journey of life.
Did it bring back any other memories or allusions to movies when he started making his gaffy out of that piece of wood that he went and found?
Say the Mandalorian, really, when they're making the
You know
army.
what? In a way,
When they're making the
because
army, and then the armor, and
yeah, he
it's
went
just
to the armorer
every
again.
clang, and it's like, oh no, we're back on Child
A
Planet. Like
flashback type
parents are
thing.
getting killed by droids. Oh no, another one. It's
Yeah.
yeah. It reminded you of
It
something.
reminded me of something. Thank you for setting that up. The movie The Natural with Roy Hobbs.
How do
The
you
tree,
get that?
the tree outside his window when he's a kid, he sees it struck by lightning, and his
That's
dad
fair.
had just died, and so he goes and gets a piece, and he carves his own bat, Wonder Boy, out of that piece. You see him sifting, you know what I mean, getting the good piece of wood, and then eventually he tells the kid, Bobby Savoy, the Bat Boy,
Pick me out a winner, Bobby.
pick me out a winner, Bobby, and makes the Savoy special. But anyways, it was just that you create that, and this is your life. This gaffy stick, and you could see the attention to detail, and then wrapping it
Like
in
a
metal
pine
around
cone.
it.
And
Yeah, instead of just a big bulbous thing. But so once he has that, then they clothe him ceremonially,
like a suit up scene.
kind of like how he was a king in the first
Yeah, it
one.
reminded me of that one.
But this one, it's almost like they're either getting him ready for sacrifice or they're getting him to honor. But then he starts dancing around that fire at night, and the black
The
clothed
lady.
woman, they start dancing, not together, but in sync. And then everybody is, and it is just very harmonious. And that's how the episode ends. So he's gone native.
Yeah.
In Avatar, that's when Jake fully goes Navi. He is all in. It's that type of thing. And I just want to know, how long is that going to be? How long?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I can't say I don't want flashbacks every episode, because I
You
want to know
do.
more about building his legacy and building his own organizational
Yeah,
empire.
it's back and forth. You want the flashbacks. How does he get there? But also you want the new stuff
Yeah,
instead of answering our
but
questions.
I mean, we had 14 minutes of
14 minutes of new
new
stuff.
stuff, and so then we had 30 some minutes, 35 minutes or so of flashbacks, which is fine. It answered a lot. So do we diminish the flashbacks? Key important things. They are adding a lot. So don't get me wrong, but I really want to see what happens with the present day stuff. But sometimes to understand the present, you have to understand the past and have that revealed.
Yeah.
Right? And so I'm just curious if we only have, I think there's going to be 7 episodes. So,
Only 5 more.
right. And then we got to wait for Solo and Cassian Andor and all of that.
Solo.
Solo. Cassian Andor? Did I say Solo?
Yeah.
Oh, I meant Obi-Wan. I'm sorry. Um,
Dang it.
yeah, I know. I got you a little excited there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Watto. It'd be great to see him. Kitster. Maybe Cobb Vanth at some point, whether he is with the Tuskens. Okay, because when we meet him in Mando the first time and he doesn't talk, he's full native. He's got the robe, he's got the gaffy stick, the scarring. And so is he looking for his armor that Cobb Vanth had? How does he hear about a Mando shooting up? How at
Well,
some point
yeah.
he's
How
going to
does
have to leave the Tuskens and go look for this stuff.
how does the Mandalorian get there? How does he figure out
Well, it's just dumb luck. The
where are
Mando
the
shows.
Mandalorians? And then the Pelimato said, "Here, Mos Pelgo." So
Yeah.
ask around the people.
But I think that might play out, and I wouldn't mind seeing Cobb Vanth show up at some point, but I doubt it. I doubt he'll be there. Um, Good, yeah, but a lot of stuff is getting addressed, is getting answered, and I'm pretty pleased. Um, I don't want to say I had crazy high expectations for it. I was open to, I'm just going to enjoy this, because I know with Mando I was really excited for it,
Yeah.
especially each episode of second season. This I'm excited about. It's new Star Wars, and I can't tell. Can you? They talk about how the technology when they film it, um, indoors and in the surround
Oh,
them.
the big dome.
Yeah, and the volume is what it's called. And I can't tell. This looks
It
like they're
looks
in
so
the desert
good.
the whole time. It looks like they have all of these. It's just
The
unbelievably
big
fantastic.
aerial shots, like going into the first flashbacks and eventually getting out of it to lead into the credits, pulling back of the big fire dance is
Mm,
how they do that. I
I
don't
don't know,
know.
because they did. I guarantee they did not go to Tunisia where they shot A New Hope.
No.
So we don't have a desert like that, looking like that here. So I doubt they travel. So it's got to be all technology, and it's just fantastic. Ludwig Göransson's stuff is great. I'm really liking the female. I don't even know if she's supposed to be female. It's just she's credited as female, but that
She's credited.
character,
Oh yeah,
the
yeah,
actress
yeah.
is, or the stunt lady's name is Joanna Bennett, but I don't know if the character is supposed to be female. But I
Probably.
just like the dynamic without even talking of, you're a prisoner, I'm gonna whoop you, and she does, it does,
Let's go make a staff.
and then you've earned it. You've saved us, and we're fighting together on the train. And I mean, they've very intimately gotten close to each other. So I just wonder where it goes from here. And that's the type of flashback stuff I'd be interested in. Show me reasons why they stay, or he stays with the Tuscans, and not go and find his
Yeah,
Slave One
yeah.
ship and get out. Slave One parked there somewhere. I know Disney doesn't call it his ship the Slave anymore, but his ship is parked there from when he flew in to Jabba's. So that's somewhere.
Yeah. Where is that?
Because he's going to be flying it in Mando in year 9. So in year 4, it's there
Yeah, he
somewhere.
did. Yeah.
So
I don't-
why?
Somewhere.
Maybe he doesn't know where he's at, so he doesn't know what direction to go.
I mean, that's what I was so confused about is how they get back to the camp to do the fire dance because you're on this obviously extremely fast train because
Yeah.
they show like in the training you see they're going decently fast and then you want to see how fast the train's going, kick it into fourth gear. It's fast and going this direction so far away a certain direction.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be miles and miles away. How long does it take to get back? I mean, obviously there's speeders, but which direction did you go? The train
A
crashed.
straight line, but you don't have tracks to follow, do you?
Yep.
Did you think anything about once I knew they were Pikes and they kept hitting these bursts where they kept going faster and faster?
Yeah.
With them being Pikes, it made me think of coaxium with in Solo when they had to escape the mall and they dropped one drop of
Just
coaxium into the ship to make it go crazy.
I don't know if they're using coaxium here
I
because
don't.
they'd be like gone.
But in a way, something happened and there was a blue box.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's blue. Coaxium is
coal.
blue. Right. It's not coal. And it just kept giving them the burst that we saw in that. So I don't know. It might be just, splitting hairs and trying to find things when it's not really there. But once the Pikes were involved, then that made me kind of think, oh, it could be this. So I did like the final thing that I have note about is when he does talk to the Pikes and he sets up the toll and he goes, they'll kill us. He goes, no Tusken will harm you.
Walk to Anchorhead.
Walk to Anchorhead, but no Tuskens will harm you. And if you kill anybody, tenfold will be done upon you.
Yep.
And so we've established a deal, and he's already like interning to be a boss man, settling. He's speaking for the tribe. He's not an elder.
He is the tribe.
Well, I don't know. The black Tusken might not agree with that. She's the alpha.
I'd say it's the chief because she's not the chief.
No, that's true.
Yeah, it's she now, even if it's not confirmed.
Yeah, that's where I'm like, maybe it's supposed to be obvious. It's a slighter build. And it moves, but it just could have been an athletic teenager. Yeah, totally, or college kid. So, anyways, I'm digging that potential relationship. Do you have anything else we didn't talk about? In your notes?
Oh, second episode. Are there any cameos
besides Fixer and Cammy?
Yes.
Besides Fixer and Cammy and the black BK.
What about your
Black K?
Your special friend that we're betting on.
Are you talking about actors or character cameos?
Actors.
Oh, okay. So my guy from the IT crowd that I talk about?
Yeah.
I have not spotted him yet.
All right.
And it might not. Are you going to ask every episode?
I'm going to ask every episode. It's a tradition.
His name's Chris O'Dowd.
Chris O'Dowd.
So he's a pretty funny guy. Great. That's it. Well, thank you very much for listening. If you want to reach out to Mallrats Podcast, you can email us at
mallratspod@gmail.com.
And we will share whatever questions or observations you might have. Go ahead and just email that, and we'll put it in the next episode. So this is signing off for episode 2, The Tribes of Tatooine. I'm Bob.
I'm Nolan.
Thank you very much for listening to Mallrats.
See you next time.